June 1948. Thousands of British and American pilots were flying deep into the heart of Germany. But during World War II, just a few short years ago, the difference is, last time they were loaded with tons of bombs. It brings death and terror. And this time, they were carrying food and supplies. With residents to 0.50 million West Berlin hope to live. First Berlin crisis could have kicked off the Cold War. The Soviet Union imposed a complete ground blockade on West Berlin, Anglo-American opportunity to showcase his air prowess. With complete experience, the RAF tested by World War II, the U.S. Air Force was established only a year ago. From Army Aviation to Independent Air Force, more than just changing the name. In fact, it is also to save. It was in the midst of the military surge after World War II, the fate of being bitten into the palace. For the U.S. Air Force, the Berlin crisis, in fact, it was an external crisis, saved himself from an internal crisis during the 15-month lockdown. The British and American transporters flew a total of 278,000 transported materials to 326,406 tons. On average, every 30 seconds, a plane landed in Berlin. For the Western camp, won this for half a century. The first catastrophe of the Cold War confrontation that won hearts and minds. It also proved that the large air force established during World War II, large fleet tactics, still has a place. Mom, this is really not true. At least the large fleet bombing tactics of World War II, it's out of date because nuclear weapons were burrow. Now throw an egg. That's 10,000. In that case, here's the thing. It becomes the plane that makes the egg-throwing missile become stronger, more reliable than it used to be. We need to build more than in planes to throw eggs together. It's actually empty. The military's machine-building strategy from R2K. Fortunately, this change in the Air Force requirement list. Just don't echo the attack on a few chats. The United States after World War II, thousands of soldiers returned to their fields. Dozens of battleships were mothballed. Birds flying in the sky are naturally not lucky. Not to mention how to deal with the plane on the right. As far as new aircraft are concerned, it can't be built again. This allows the previous aircraft manufacturers at full capacity. I have a headache and the order is gone. How will this excess capacity be absorbed? The large employment population of the aviation industry. How will it be placed? The solution is industrial upgrading. We said in the last video, World War II, airplanes are actually relatively simple to build. So, in the United States, which was still in its industrial heyday, once the factory door is turned on at full capacity, you can produce them in batches. And the need for a large-scale total war at that time. I really need this. Not to mention low end, at least a massive release of capacity at the end. Interstellar magic, it's a psychological setting. These World War II mass-produced goods are considered second chorus. The development of the atomic bomb. Let me recognize what high-end production capacity is, or more accurately, solid production. Once these three technologies are developed, the benefits are thousands of times that of the second technology. Based on this successful experience, the aviation and military industry in the United States, for example, has also opened a D-36 built by Color Company Peacemaker bomber, ultra-long range through oversized volume. It allows them to fly across continents to execute a strategy and attack against an imaginary enemy in pursuit of extreme range and air superiority. Americans even try to transform the B-36 into a nuclear-powered aircraft. This is what I saw in the previous Flying X-Series videos. However, for this trend, for the big tossing bomber, although the range has been improved, but it's hard to explain when encountering rival fighter jets. In the later Korean War, the American B-29 encountered a head-on attack from Sujimai-Shiwu. In the face of this equipment, a large caliber gun of 37mm, once in Japan, unimpeded B-29 Super Skyfortress, being torn apart is a matter of minutes. Lessons for the U.S. Air Force from these combat cases. The first is the World War II Skyfortress mutual fire mode. The high-speed jet fighter is no longer effective. So, you don't have to flock if you don't have to. And then, bombers have to find new ways to survive and penetrate, like fly fast, fly high, or fly low. B-47, B-52 completed the U.S. Air Force bomber strategy, jet flower, then XB-7 Valkyrie bombers. It was originally a high-altitude and high-speed penetration route. But it was the birth of a Soviet anti-aircraft missile. Directly, a cargo BB took the low-altitude, high-speed penetration route. Until B took completes invisibility. I can fly around a guy. Similar. American fighter jets built during the Cold War. The reconnaissance plane has gone through a similar evolutionary path. Then, in order to make this full set of Air Force equipment, the entire industrial structure in the United States geographic distribution has undergone considerable changes. In the last video, I do it for everyone. Mention something that later became the giant American aircraft manufacturer. I gave you pictures at that time. Is their corresponding knockout product? This time I'll show you their approximate location on a map of the United States. Did you notice? Southwest California concentrated a large number of aircraft companies. Why does this happen? Think about that. What is the most famous climate feature of California? The sun is shining brightly. Isn't it the perfect weather for a test flight? Fishermen gather here to build an airport. It makes sense. In Compariso, America's traditional industrial heartland, including the early military-industrial heartland, the demands on the geographical environment have changed zone to make a better choice for home entry. The second great Western development of the United States kicked off. Different from 19. In fact, the people at the bottom action-led frontier west. The development of the American West after World War II, led by government procurement for defense needs, big business, and the industry university research complex jointly composed for the executive agency. This method, in fact, as early as World War II, has been successfully practiced. The top universities in the United States, that includes MIT, Caltech, Harvard University, University of Chicago, Columbia, Stanford Princeton, universities such as Pennsylvania, all undertake defense contracts ranging from tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars. Just the most reached $150 million. The radiation laboratory it established. It is the leading agency for the development of radar technology in the United States. I don't know if you remember the night battle, Mriya raw fire extinguisher, and many other classic battles of the Pacific War. The U.S. military's radar detects enemies in combat played a significant role, so much so that the people at the radiation lab once radar won the war. The atomic bomb ended the war. That other famous lab, located in the southwestern United States, affiliated with the California Institute of Technology experimenter. When this force is exerted, it will be after World War II. Again, go to the Stanford Research Institute, established in 1946, received a large number of military electronic and development orders for communication and also participated in the research of missile defense systems. To the location of this university, also located in the Sunbelt, California. This is a combination with the chicken farm gate here. America's new high-tech industrial center was Burrough. It is a traditional northeastern industrial center, become a division of diagonal competitio due to the complexity of three undergraduate technologies reform geometry and their products. Make a new generation of achievements. Even if the final actual purchase is not many, the upstream industrial chain driven by its R&D and production. This creates a lot of job opportunities, setting off a large wave of immigration to the West. This in turn stimulates housing, roads, and so on to connect the West. The demand for new technology facilities across the United States. Simultaneous combination of also industry, in the foe, education, and research. In particular, the development of electronic communication and materials technology of Silicon Valley. The power of Silicon Valley to change the world has far exceeded the previous killing period. So much for that. It feels like this wave of the U.S. government on doing great things. Visionary. Takaimi Rishin Operatio. There is no harm in it. That's definitely not the case. Otherwise, President Eisenhower is currently or complain about the military-industrial complex. In fact, this kind of concentration of power can achieve amazing miracles. It must also be, with a staggering amount of waste and corruption. America's largest arms dealer today, Roxy Marty, his former saint as well as the main body of Lockheed, just listed earlier, one of the many chicken farms located in the Sunbelt. He was in World War II. 10,037 P-38 fighter jets were built. Post-war supply country victory, shrinking demand, had to jump off the building for a big sale. Cost of $97,000. Now they're only $1,200 From then on, Lockheed decided he only makes expensive planes. Don't make too many. This is exactly what we said earlier. The U.S. Air Force's K strategy for aircraft requirements. Lockheed in the Cold War era created a large number of performance top ships. But it's also true that I have no friends. The Black Tech plane. And Lockheed made a lot of money for that. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's hard power after all. Satisfied the U.S. Air Force competitive needs with the opposite Mauchon. You earn the money, that's what it should be. However, for building this kind of money, a high-performance aircraft like no other. For this innovative technology project, success always exists, only in a certain probability. And the probability is definitely not 100%. At the dawn of the invention of the airplane, various grassroots aircraft builders, or a small company, risk your own bankruptcy, even the founder's own life. Let's bet on the probability of this success. This has allowed the entire industry of trial and error for society keep it within a manageable range. After the company grows, this trial and error, it's easy to fall into a big somersault in one step. Mock side. And I'm officially aware of that. So in its R&D department, Travel Factory leading inversions, it realizes the flat management of large companies. Even so, there will still be genuine armed works such as AW-56. Projects that fail this bidding. The cost of R&D and prototyping, isn't it a waste? That's not the end. Almost at the same time, another successful project in Noxeed won the bidding. C5 Galactic Transport also Agent. Because the development cycle is too long. Too much investment. The chain of funds blamed on Lockheed nearly collapsed. In desperation, they accused the government of borrowing money. Originally, this behavior is a complete violation of American liberal capitalism. Also has the above-mentioned. The risks of technological and business innovation controlled by entrepreneurs. At most, it is a small area of the entire enterprise. This time, the arms giant Lockheed. It's too big to fail. In desperation, after a retrograde wrangling in the U.S. Congress, finally all gave Lockheed, got a $1.4 billion lower. Although this and the C5 project development value to $1 billion, it's been a very restrained rescue. But this takes taxpayers' money. The act of backing capitalists, how angered the American people. It was during the Vietnam War, the rising tide of anti-war. Sheer projects that hurt the people and money. It became a lot of Americans at that time denouncing the important crimes of the military-industrial complex. But is everyone against it? Of course not. At least Lockheed and millions of its massive upstream suppliers. We will certainly not object. After all, it depends on food and clothing. So in the 1960s and 1970s, even excluding ideological factors, only from the perspective of the interests of dividing the cake, there is also a big rift in American society. Fortunately, the right to dispute one vote handed down from the ancestors. Let those who did not join the army. He was not forced to be promoted. They can elect their own representatives. Let's change the policy little by little. Become an important counterweight to the expansion of the military-industrial complex. Lockheed. This wave of experience has made him realize that point one, the pursuit of excellence and the whole fire also face great risks. The American people are not easy to mess with. According to the lessons of this year, Lockheed decides a bad product sold directly in China, resale overseas. This is the famous popular coffee, Widowmaker F-10 for new fighter. Resilient airplanes have to small wings due to their pursuit of high speed, resulting in physiological deficiencies. Terrible handling. Such a weak and visibly flawed aircraft. Who the hell would be mentally retarded? Don't put the pilot's life on the line, unless you can give me a kickback. Although the most famous arms bribery case in history, the targets of Lockheed's bribes this time include West Italy, Japan, Prime Minister or senior government official of the Netherlands, and paid to Saudi Arabia, Turkey spy, Brazil, Philippines, huge rebates from arms buyers. This wave of operations has made Lockheed and senior officials from various countries all made a lot of money. However, it has the cheese of other arms dealers in the United States. And then something happened. It has to be said that it also benefits from this part of the mysterious power. Some Lenten checks and balances. They're influenced by the Americans themselves. And then finally, back to physics. American Air County. And this wave of aviation manufacturing, technology upgrade, low-hanging fruit, big head hongyi. In fact, by the 1960s, it's almost done. You see, whether it is a 747 or a giant aircraft still in use today, and now all technology, they have also returned to the original old products after the third generation after the war. It has also long stalled in speed performance. I am from the X1 trial period. The doubling factor was broken for the first time in 1947. The X-15 had exceeded the 6X factor. It took 14 years. However, in the field of aviation, the challenge of speed is no longer there. Due to the low cosmic speed compared to spaceflight, Mach 23.2, these are confined in the atmosphere by air resistance. Speed challenge. It's pointless. In the next video, we will turn our perspective to the sky. A look at America's military complex and space exploration. How do they complement each other? Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for your generous charging.